Thank you guys for signing up to our email list. As we promised, we have 3 secrets to jumping that we're going to give you today, and we're going to get right into it. The first thing we're going to talk about here is balance and how that applies to these 3 different jump scenarios. And most of the time, this is about all you're going to get: steep jump face, mellow jump face, and a jump face with a kicker, which I'm sure everyone in this video that sees this has come across this, and it's given you trouble as it has me. I did all tabletops here because if you're watching this video and you're unsure about jumping, go to a tabletop first. Being in balance on the bike is going to be really important to keep the bike, when you're jumping in the air. I have this little bike right here to show you guys. When you're jumping in the air, to keep the bike jumping as level as possible. We don't want to get ourselves into a Ronnie Mack situation or a Cody Haverfield situation. So you want to make sure that you're jumping the bike as level as possible. And how you do that is matching your balance with your upper body with the throttle that you give on the jump face. And on a steep face, that's going to be different than on a mellow face. On a steep face, your bike is going to be at more of an incline, so it's going to require more movement to the front of the bike in order to get the bike to come up level underneath you when you get in the air. On a mellow jump face, you're going to be a little more neutral because your bike isn't as pitched, right? You can see the difference here. You know, your body's going to be angled that way, or here it's a little more of a neutral position. You're still going to be off the front, a little more of a neutral position than this. And then on the kicker, you're going to be about the same as you would here, but there's one thing that you cannot forget to do, and that's hold the gas on. You cannot ever let off the gas in the kicker, ever, 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 ever. You let off right here. Secret number 2 is going to be knowing the jump. I think the biggest problem that we've seen with new riders learning how to jump is they'll get super excited that they've conquered one jump, go to the next jump, get discouraged because it pitches them differently or it's requiring different input from them. So I think it's important for you guys to study, go online, watch a Supercross, watch an outdoor motocross event, and then compare body positions when these riders are hitting these jumps. If you watch Supercross, on the triple faces, which are steep and long, they're going to be way over the front. On shorter, steeper faces, like in the rhythm lanes, they're going to let the bike kind of come in front of them and use their body weight to keep that back end from kicking up. So if you do your studying there and you pay attention to what the body's doing, you're going to notice that the knees are staying on the center line of the bike. Okay, and then the hips and upper body, so your hips are going to control the kick, which you may even use here on the kicker jump to make sure the bike doesn't get too bucked forward. And then the head is going to control the power. So when you're giving throttle, the head is going to counter that balance. Okay, if it's pulling you off the back, you're moving your head forward to counter that. If you've got a short, steep face, you're going to have to put your hips back towards the back fender to counter that kick that the bike's going to get. When the jump face is shorter than the actual wheelbase of the motorcycle, that's usually when you encounter that kind of kick from the rear end. You have to use your hips to make sure that doesn't happen. We didn't even talk about the variances of the face of the jump. Say there's ruts on one jump face is sandy, obviously there's kickers, hard pack. They're all different, so it's going to take a little bit of trial and error. On most of those, you want to be powering through the face no matter what. That's kind of the rule of thumb that's going to make you as safe as possible, is this always nice, steady, smooth power through the face of the jump, in balance with the bike. 9 times out of 10, that gets you jumping straight. And the third thing that we're going to talk about is going to be gear selection. Like I said earlier in the video, most of the common mistakes that we see at our local tracks is people hitting the jump in a gear too low. Okay, so the RPMs are super high, and there's no room for adjustment once they get in the air. What you gotta understand about when you panic rev the bike, when you see someone going like this and they're wide open, if they're already at their rev limiter, there's no more momentum being created by the back wheel and making that back end drop back down. And so if you see someone that's really good at doing that, they'll shift the bike up as they're endoing and turn the throttle. What I suggest is being a gear higher on every jump so you don't get yourself in a situation where you're maxed out if you do make the mistake or get kicked forward. Another thing in gear selection that really helps is when your bike is in a lower RPM, your suspension is a little more freed up and it gives it a little more leeway. So for instance, if you were to hit this kicker, call it, I don't know, what's the maximum RPM? Let's say maximum RPM of bike's 15,000, you hit it at 13,000. Your bike is bound up, your suspension is bound up, so you're going to get more feedback from that kicker than you would if you hit it at, call it 6,000, right? The suspension's more freed up, the bike is loosened up, it's working the way it should be. Your suspension soaks this up as long as you're on the gas. It soaks this little hole up and you're able to still jump the bike level. Just so you know, for reference, 6,000 is going to be, call it fourth gear, over 15,000 in third gear. I know there's going to be different scenarios where you're right out of a turn and you need that torquey power to get you over a jump. So there are going to be some scenarios that you're just going to have to be extra cautious and making sure that you're hitting the jump in balance with the bike and that you're eliminating the risk of any kick, because there will be scenarios where you need that real torquey part of the power to get you the pop that you need. I set this up kind of thinking that there's, you know, a straightaway leading up to these where you can go bop and then bop, power through the face, right? And there will be times where the straightaway is long enough to where you can get enough speed that you don't have to hit the jump on the gas at all. And that's a whole nother thing to talk about, okay? These three things, if you spend the time studying them, understanding them, and applying them, you're gonna become a much safer jumper, which then in turn leads to faster and longer jumps, having a lot more fun. All right guys, thanks for watching. We're glad you're here. We're gonna have more of these tips. Be on the lookout in your emails soon.